Most students have not been taught how to use a textbook, and yet it's such a powerful tool. Because they haven't been taught the power of the tool, a large percentage don't even buy the book, in part because they're getting so darn expensive. Over $100 for this little puppy here, I believe. These books are designed for what's called pedagogy. That's a fancy way of saying helping you learn. And they are seriously done to be, at least according to the people doing it, the most effective way of teaching. But students don't know the effective way of using it. How many of you know of SQ3R? None? 1, 2. I assumed all my students were still learning this until a few years ago I asked. It died out. There's also an SQ4R. There's a newer version of it, which I'm not so familiar with. SQ3R. Survey, that's the S. Question, that's the Q. Then you have 3 R's. Read, recite, review. And we were taught this because they knew pedagogically, way back in those dark ages of the 60s, that you retain much more from a text if you survey, question, read, recite, and review. So, how do you do the survey? These are not novels. In a novel, you wouldn't want to read the last page, would you? Find out who done it, it'd ruin the whole thing. But this is a textbook. So what you do is you actually go through the entire chapter. You look at pictures. Okay? What's this about apples? What's this about a duck-billed platypus? Okay. And what you're doing is you survey, you ask questions. What are formal concepts? What's a superordinate concept? What are natural concepts? Prototypes. What is a prototype? So you raise questions as you go through. It only takes a couple of minutes to survey a chapter in any class. Okay? As you're surveying, you simultaneously raise questions. What you're doing then is causing you to be looking for answers. And this is a powerful thing. How many of you have noticed when you're looking through a newspaper for a piece of information, you can find it, it kind of jumps out at you? But if you're just kind of reading it haphazardly, kind of casually, most of what you read you don't even remember. There's something about it, and I can't explain it, I can only describe it. If you intend to find something, you find it. And I've got a little demonstration I could have brought where I actually show a placard with the words Boston and London printed on them. And I hold it up for 20 seconds. Out of a group this size, maybe 2 or 3 of you'd see Boston and London. Because before I do it, I tell you to look for letters, symbols, and numbers. I create what's called a set. You're now expecting not to see words, but letters. And even though Boston and London are printed on diagonal, most people don't see it. Likewise, if you just kind of go through a book without asking questions first, you kind of skizz over the content. You don't have the search mechanism going, okay? The reading, followed by the recitation, I talked about that. Technically, before a test, it should be reviewed. It should be in the barn. Now you're just touching up to make sure you haven't lost anything or confused anything. But I know how this works. Because we schedule tests, most students don't start studying until shortly before an exam. And much like my friend, they put so much time all massed together and only study for about a half hour, pull all-nighters so they don't get the good rest, come in and do poorly. You're undoing yourself. If you start studying early and do some of the things I've talked about, by the time you get to the test, you're just reviewing at that point, not truly studying. Okay, use the book correctly. SQ